to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So all members are present except for Brett. Public Works. 2 weeks ago we talked about the potential loader purchase. Tonight we would like to entertain a motion. Certainly do that prior to any discussion.
I make a motion to consider the loader.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
You say consider.
Yeah.
We're gonna consider how we're gonna pay for it.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So,
Well, I gave you two options. I actually had an offline conversation with Dave. You know, this is planning. This is what we call planning. This is called financial planning. Larry's brought this item to you in the past. Larry's provided you with a list of machinery that he is in need of over the next, well, now, but some maybe stuff he can hold off on for another year or two. We started a plan, a specific public works sinking fund a few years ago. My preference, and I said it to Dave offline, is to use the public works sinking fund and pay the whatever it is going to be, a very small amount of interest over the course of 2 years. It's really a 2-year loan because you're putting 50 down essentially, and then you're paying 50 and 50. So it's paid for similar to the fire engine, which we paid for in about 2 years, 2.5 years or so. I think it's cleaner that way. That's what the fund was set up for. That's what we planned for, and it also gives Larry a little bit more flexibility in case there's another need. It leaves some money in that fund. So I'll
How much money's in the fund right now?
90.
And so total purchase price of that is?
About 150, Larry, I don't know, I have it at.
156 or so. Was the,
yeah, 156.
It was
The
put,
good news, Larry, is we all agree again, it's just how we fund it.
that's my preference. I mean, the other option, you basically are expending the entirety of that fund, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. I'd rather do this over 2 years. As I said, it leaves some flexibility in case there's other machinery that's needed while we build the fund back to the point where Larry might be able to buy the roll-off truck that he's talking about, or the backhoe. You know, one other thing I'd like to mention is in this year's budget, I proposed and the Board of Finance accepted a position for a facilities manager person. The idea was to put 20,000, John and I had this conversation offline. It was something that I'd been thinking about, and to get John's support on it, I was very happy with that. And John, it was certainly, I know you originated the idea, but it was also something the town's been talking about for a very long time. The idea was to put 20,000 in this year's budget. 20,000 isn't going to get you anybody, but the idea is to hire someone on or about January 1, and then put another 15 or 20 into that position come July 1. Have a part-time position, 25, 30 hours a week, to be looking at heating and air conditioning units in all the town facilities. But there's no reason that person couldn't be a facilities and equipment manager, and I don't think Larry would have any particular objection to that person being the keeper of the records. So we have a new front-end loader. Whatever work is done, it can be that person. Like you don't have the time to enter it into a computer, whether it's computerized records, any work that was done by either the town crew or by the manufacturer or the manufacturer's rep. So that is also something I thought about when I started looking at that position, that there's no reason that position, for the amount of equipment and machinery we have in town, that person couldn't be a keeper of those records, so that they're more readily accessible.
So
Okay?
it's not someone that's gonna go out and take the dipstick and check the oil or anything?
Absolutely
Just someone's
not.
gonna do the database, set up a
Yes.
database
Yes.
Or
for
would that
their...
be townwide or just
Townwide.
for all the equipment all over town?
Well, okay, so not Board of Ed,
Okay.
in all
that's what I was
likelihood,
gonna-
probably not Board of Ed.
But just if nothing else in there.
And I'm sure that we could fold the PD into that, but I think PD has pretty good records of their maintenance on their vehicles. I mean, I see it come
I guess my
across.
question would be, yeah, they probably do, I assume they do, and I assume Board of Ed does, but would that person like collect it all and have it all in one spot?
You know, so we're talking about a part-time position, so we're not talking about a $90,000 a year position
Right.
right now. You know, there's a lot out there, so I don't want, I wanna maybe, Public Works is probably where a lot of the major equipment is for the town. I mean, we have 2 town vehicles,
Right.
really, you know, so, I think, I mentioned that as a start.
Yep.
You know, where that expands to is a different issue. Maybe it does involve the Board of Ed, maybe that person becomes a facilities and maintenance person for the entire town 5 years down the road. Quite frankly, at some point with the Board of Ed, talking about some consolidation of services is a necessity. And that's, but that is a conversation that needs to happen at the superintendent, first selectman level, and Board of Education, Board of Finance level. It's not something to throw out there
Right.
in a casual meeting in July.
Okay.
But it's certainly, municipal collaboration has to happen more and more. Intermunicipal, intra.
Let me ask you a question. We bought the fire truck. Didn't we fund that out of our own money, the refinancing? Just took the money out of another pot?
Yes. What we did is we have a fire department capital, we have a sinking fund, just like Public Works sinking fund, for the fire department needs. But you are correct that we funded it, we borrowed the money from ourselves over the course of 2 years, and that money is being paid back. In fact, the final payment, I don't know if it was July 1, and there's one more partial payment, and that truck is paid for.
I thought it was all done already.
What?
I thought it was all done.
Yeah, I think there's another, like a $50,000 payment yet to go, Barry, but I have $155,000 a year repeating into a sinking fund for fire department equipment. And yes, that fund got zeroed out on July 1 this year. And I think next year, there's about 50,000 coming out of it towards the fire truck, and then it's building again for the needs that the fire department has identified before the Board of Finance, or 20-year needs.
I'm just looking, if you've taken 45 from his sinking fund, if you just borrowed the other 100 from some other fund, you know, you got,
We could do that. I mean,
you got your sewer avoidance
No,
fund,
no,
you took money
no,
out of it and just
we
put
wouldn't-
it someplace.
No,
So I think-
we probably wouldn't take it out of there. We'd take it from the undesignated fund balance. We could borrow it from ourselves. We could,
How will it affect our bond rate?
Well,
it,
we didn't take it, when we did that once before, we didn't take it from the fund balance. We took it from the undesignated part of the municipal reserve fund.
okay, right,
That-
undesignated.
That's the place to do
Right.
it, not take it out of the fund balance.
Right. That's another option. That's a 0%. We've done that. If Bob.
I don't like to pay interest if you don't have to.
Listen, I mean, even with interest rates historically low, why pay them if you don't have
And
to?
we're not gonna go for any big bonds. right?
We're not. We are not, but.
You're not gonna go and refinance it because they're not getting much lower, I don't think, so.
No, they've gone up a little bit. So, we could work that out with Bob. That's not an issue. That's easily done.
What are we earning on the funds that we have in all these?
What do we earn in interest?
Yeah.
In the municipal reserve fund, it's 0.2%.
Are there any bonds that, in the now or in the near future could be refinanced?
Well, actually, we're in the middle of refinancing. You know, there's a 5-year period at which you can't refinance. Well, we refinanced all the one bonds we had.
We did.
All we're doing is waiting for the 5-year period to end, and then it'll happen.
But is that coming up anytime soon?
Yeah, I think so, isn't it?
We,
One set of them, I think, is.
I could jingle Mark Chapman, but I mean, I asked him what's on the horizon in terms of refinancing, and he didn't say too much. That's something he keeps track of, and I can easily shoot him an email and say, Mark, you know, what's the schedule ahead for refinancing? Of course, if interest rates go up.
You're not gonna do that.
Yeah, you're
I
not-
just think there was a 2010 bond that was refinanced, and as the 5-year period comes up, that'll just automatically happen.
Maybe.
Did you get any maintenance on that vehicle?
Well, that's part of the reason Carl's talking about that. I have the W.I. Clark bills, that's the John Deere dealer or whatever, we only own one John Deere or whatever. But we do a lot of stuff ourselves, and to go through and pick out the Napa bills, what was a hose, what was a filter,
Brad, are you
what
talking
was
about for the?
I'm talking about future bills
Yeah.
for the new equipment.
This is the same sheet that I hand you guys out every year. And I highlighted it for you, Brad, so you can see it, the years that we have it down to replacement. Sorry, I didn't make copies of this. The rest of you guys have it.
Well, you had $2,400, Brad, in the capital outlay book request.
This is when you're talking about replacing, I'm talking about the new piece of equipment you wanna buy. Did you get an idea how much it's gonna cost to repair it over the period of?
Oh, yeah.
Service it?
Like I said before, it would cost the town about $2,400. The first oil change, if 500 hours, it's like $500. It wouldn't need, say if we did 2 oil changes and say we got 1,000 hours in the first year, we'd have 2 oil changes on it, it'd be $1,000. And then whatever gets broken in the meantime, if we break a light or anything like that. But 2,400 would cover it. When we get to the 1,500 or the 2,000 service, it's a couple $1,000s for that one. But as long as we're, you know, we don't flatten all 4 tires running over something, the maintenance cost shouldn't be too bad for
Is there
that.
any warranty?
Oh,
Yes, there is some warranty that comes with it.
How come all of your people drive the payloader, and who trains them?
Well,
Why do you have everybody available to drive that heavy equipment?
because it's needed up at the transfer station and it's needed out on the road. Through the union, I have to, if I called you in for overtime tonight for a tree down, I'd have to call Dave, the next one in line, tomorrow. And that's, so you took the loader out tonight, now Dave's gonna take it out tomorrow night. We have another tree down on Friday night, Brad takes that, you know what I'm saying? So it's everybody on the crew that's running it, basically.
That's for
So,
overtime, right?
this is a heavy
Yeah.
piece of equipment, what kind of training do they get?
Well, we pretty much do that when we hire people, we find out what they,
So who
equipment
trains them? You
operators.
train them?
Well, we had a new guy start yesterday or whatever, who already knows how to operate a loader, but I got on the machine with him, showed him where the emergency brake was, where the, you know, how to shift it, how to start it, how to, you know, the whole bit, explained the machine to him. And then gave him a few hours or whatever to work with it in the brush pile, pushing up and things like that,
So
and I watched him.
does the dealer offer any training though?
No, they don't, but, I mean, there are courses, there are classes we could take for training.
I mean, they give you a CD, a DVD. I mean,
Well,
that
pretty
you-
much, you're
I
Sounded
mean,
like you're boat license.
Well,
I went to an.
when we're hiring somebody, that,
If you hire at a certain level, that person should
yeah,
have that kind of
we're
knowledge.
we're getting that info on their, you know, their employment applications and their resumes.
Is there a license for that, like CDL or something?
No, nothing like that.
How much does that weigh?
Ooh, that machine there, geez, to be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not
It's
sure.
over 18,000 pounds?
Oh, yeah,
So do you need a CDL if you're driving it on the road?
no,
Why?
don't know. Talk to somebody in DMV.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
don't
I
know
mean, it
if
doesn't
you've
have
come
air
across
brakes,
that
it doesn't have
before.
anything like that, so it's.
And then Larry, I see you have the grapple bucket with freight.
Mhm.
There's no installation charge, are you guys gonna install that yourself?
This machine that we're getting is called a tool carrier, and somebody had asked the other day about it. There's a set of forks that go with it. From inside the cab, you're gonna be able to hit a switch, and you can drop the bucket, you can pick up the forks, all from in the cab, lock it back in position, take the forks off in the cab, go to the grapple bucket, hook it on, all from the cab, and away you go.
That's good. Well, in today's world of litigation and everything, Should there be a minimum certification that each operator has that is qualified to run a piece of equipment?
I mean, there's lawyers everywhere, they're gonna sue you for something.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the answer he was looking for, but discussing. Yeah, John asked the question, I mean, to have, well, how big's the town crew? How many guys?
Well, we're getting back up there again. I mean,
Well,
2 new guys.
What is it, 10? 8?
Probably 12, 13 of us now.
I mean, to have every guy, I mean, I just wonder from a wear and tear perspective,
Mhm.
if there's any way to limit the amount of guys, and maybe there's not, and I'm not,
Yeah. It'd be a tough thing because, say we've got one person from the transfer station that we train, we sent to school, and okay, you're the only operator. Now it's Saturday afternoon,
Yeah.
and the leaves gotta be pushed up, and I got Donnie Sparrow calling me on the phone, I can't back my trailer up. It's,
It happens.
you know.
He calls me first, and then,
It would make a scheduling problem, I think, or we would end up paying a lot of people overtime.
Isn't that the rotation only for overtime? It's not for normal use of it?
No, just for the overtime.
Just for the overtime. So
Yeah.
if you got guys steering, you can have one guy that mostly runs it all the time. Everybody else is.
Well, it's, a lot of the times it's like that. Pete Labriola is our top operator, and most of the time when we're doing something, he's sitting in it.
that's true.
Could you look into what it would take for what
Yeah.
certification is and then report back to us
Mhm.
along with that? Like Dave with the fire department, right? You have to have so much training
I
to
don't think
drive a fire truck?
there's, I used to drive a loader, and I don't think there's any certification for it,
Okay.
as far as I know.
See, like the last guy we just hired that just started at the transfer station yesterday, Matt Holly, he got the wreck old lines loader before he came to work for us, so.
He got one there?
He got the wreck their loader before he came to work with us. He was able to learn on their loader, their trucks, their,
He got to wreck it. What do
well, you know what I'm saying? He got to learn how to run a loader
Oh,
in old line, you know what I'm saying?
I know
It's,
he's doing.
I'm sure he didn't wreck it.
Any other questions for Larry, or
Just how we're gonna finance it as well.
do you have any comment about borrowing the money from ourselves, Bob? Or
I don't think it would be a problem to borrow from ourselves.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So what do you do, Bob? Take 50 from the sinking fund and then 50 and 50,
Yeah.
or whatever the numbers
Yeah.
come out to be?
Why don't we just do it that way?
Do that.
We'll do it, we'll make sure, so it's basically a 2-year payback. That will be the
Okay.
plan.
Sure.
Because it's interest-free, we won't make it 4 years, we'll make it, we'll still do 2 years.
This won't affect our bond rating.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Well,
now, the sale of the old loader, will that go back into the sinking fund for the public works? Or would that go to capital, or not capital?
Well, are you trading it in?
We're not, I don't think we should trade it in. They've offered us $15,000 if we trade it in.
Okay. You think you get more money?
I think we can get a little bit more money for it.
Right. So that would be revenue. It can either be used for a payback
or back into the sinking fund.
or back into the, yeah, I mean, either.
Just as long as it's not going back into the general fund.
Or buy a boat.
Yeah, yeah.
Could that be used as a down payment on the equipment if he sells that first? Then we put that money
He's not gonna
towards the
sell
down
it
payment?
first though, because he needs it.
So it makes no sense to hang on to it just for the leaf dump or anything?
I don't think so, no. Because like I said, it's in need of a lot of repairs. I've replaced 2 of the computers, there's 4, there's 2 to go. Those were expensive. It's time for it to move on. You know, the machine's done a lot of work for the town. I mean, you gotta figure every piece of brush that came into that town, the transfer station, it's moved 3 times. Once pushing it up in the pile, once pushing it up to the tub grinder, and then one piling it up in chips. Actually 4 times, because then we're loading the truck with it too.
And the only thing I would think, Larry, is if you put it in a remote location, that you would keep the new one from going back and forth to a location, like on top of a leaf dump, or, Founder's Park, sat up there and just did work up there, you're not moving it on the road, it's not any violation. Would it be beneficial to us rather than going one back and forth? I don't know the answer to that question, but if you've got it sitting up there and it's only designated for that, it's only gonna be used for that once in a while, is it worth $30,000 or $12,000 or $15,000 to have it up there, rather than having a new one go back and forth?
That's not me.
The other thing though, like if you do leave stuff at the landfill, the tub grinder was up there this winter, the windows got smashed out of it, it was,
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
yeah.
Okay.
You
I just
know,
wanna-
you always have to worry about somebody stealing the battery or putting sugar in the gas or fuel tank, things like that. Like I said, the tub grinder, we were able to find out who did it because the kid got guilty and went home and told his mother. So, I mean, the mother actually was the one that called me to tell that the windows got smashed out, so.
Good kid. So there's a motion to consider the purchase, and a second. I guess first we have to vote on that motion.
Well-
If there's no further discussion, then we'll make a motion to
Consider.
buy and or finance or whatever. Make sense?
Bob, do you want to, yeah, go ahead, why don't you do that, and Bob, you can help frame the motion in terms of, from the municipal reserve fund, the undesignated portion of the municipal reserve fund.
Exactly, yes.
All right, so all in favor of considering the purchase of the loader?
Does it have to go to town meeting, by the way?
I don't know.
I'd say, yeah.
The reason I asked the question is we talk about these things during the budget season, and after the budget's passed, we bring them back on the table. It probably should be,
Well,
I'd like to see it all start all at once, myself.
so the idea of financing it here is that it, through the sinking fund, is it would not have to go to town meeting. That's one way to do it. Through the municipal reserve fund, you're paying it back from the sinking fund. Like, I don't believe this would have to go through the two-town
I'm
meeting.
not worried about going down, I just want the correct process.
No, I know that. If you're borrowing the money from the bank, I don't believe, in fact, I know it wouldn't have to go to town meeting. If you were paying for it all at once with the capital non-recurring fund, it would have to go to town meeting. My inclination is no. Bob is not so sure. I don't remember what we did with the fireboat.
That was, I mean,
Yeah, we went to a town meeting for it.
absolutely.
I think it's a legitimate.
My answer is always the same, that
Yeah.
it may or may not have to, but I think it's wise to do so.
Yeah, I don't know when I'm scheduling the next town
Yeah, I
meeting,
know,
but,
right.
you know, that's the only issue, but that's fine.
Larry's waiting long enough, he can wait till town meeting, right?
Well,
Well, as long as it's not till the,
no, I
Not
mean,
till next year, right?
no, I mean, we can just take it at some later time to the town meeting and ask for.
Before the first snowfall?
I'd like to see it a little bit before that.
I'll let the first leave.
I'll take it to, it's fine, we'll take it to a town meeting.
I just want us to follow the process, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have no problem doing it.
Do you want to vote on this motion?
All those, yeah.
You want to just actually mention the dollar amount?
No, we're not doing that. We're just
It's a
voting.
separate motion.
Consideration.
So all those in favor of considering the purchase of the loader, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Now, I'll make a motion to finance put $50,000 down, purchase, and then the other money would come from undesignated funds to be returned. How do we
No,
return?
the money would come from the undesignated portion of the municipal reserve fund.
Right, but then,
To be paid back
To be
from
paid
the
back.
public works sinking fund over the course of the next 2 fiscal
years.
years.
There you go.
To purchase in the amount of,
$156,317.09.
100 what?
$156,317.09.
is that what you have?
Get the right number?
You want to, I don't have that. Larry, you have the,
It's on the,
Yeah.
That's the one, right?
You got the
Not-
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Not this one.
156, yeah,
Is it the
I'll ask
155,
Bob, I know
942?
that
Yeah,
50%
it's a
of
cheaper
it
one.
is gonna come from.
Erase that, Jerry.
Public.
Yes,
works.
155.
Oh, it's not
One-
in.
155.
That's the other one.
Yeah, that's
$942.70.
there you go.
Okay.
All right. Very good. That's
Well,
fine.
the other one going back into his fund, or no?
And then included in that will be all funds from current vehicle will go back into the sinking fund.
Sinking fund, okay.
Okay.
All right. Second.
any discussion? All All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
There you go.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you for considering that.
Welcome.
All right.
I expect you to take good care of that.
We'll be waxing it.
Don't forget the
Do I
inside
get
of the
the first
wheels.
ride? No.
Don't forget the inside of the wheels.
Yeah.
So they won't rust.
Treasurer's report.
Okay. 2 weeks ago, I gave you a report on where we stood with the fiscal year 14-15. And what the information I had at that time was all the cash transactions at the close of business on June 30th. Okay? And it was clear from the discussion that people want to know more fast. And so what I put together for you here was an update on that report, including 2 more weeks of information, which included a lot of payables for general government. It includes the accounts payable for Board of Ed so that they're all in. And it includes most receivables since that time. Money that was collected by June 30th and not deposited until early July. So this new one tells you more about where we are, and it's enough that I'm willing to give you an estimate of where we'll be with the fund balance, all right?
Yep.
Okay, the first thing you look at is the expenditures. The general government still has $160,000 under budget, even though I believe that most payables are in for that one now. When we talked about payables being looked at the end of August, most of those are the non-budget payables. They're off budget, so. And Board of Ed, I think, is all in. They have a surplus that they're offering for $9,800. The bonded indebtedness is $14,000 in the hole, as we reported before, because of a need to make an accrued interest payment on the preserve bond that wasn't in the budget. On the revenue side, we are still in very good shape. And then what that looks like to me is we're going to end up with about a $400,000 surplus in the general fund, okay? Now, affecting the fund balance, we also have the fact that we spent the carryover money for the roads and sidewalks, which
Elm Street.
yeah, that gets subtracted from the fund balance. And then we had the reimbursement money for the storm damage. We had $595,000 to us that I made into receivables. I was able to get $435,000 into the general fund balance from that. The rest goes to zero out the negative balances in the off-budget storm damage accounts. You know, we had like 3 of them, all of which were near $50,000 worth of expenditures. So I covered those before I put the receivable in the general fund, okay? Bottom line, it looks to me like our fund balance is going to be around $3.5 million. When you look at a 15-16 budget of $43,672,000, that represents a smidgen over 8%. And that's where I think we'll end up.
So, did I hear you correctly that the general government, there's a surplus of roughly 400,000, and then, so that could go into the fund balance? And then there's also the 435?
Yeah, if you look at total expenditures of 42,288 and total revenues 42,786, that's like 500,000.
Yep.
I think there'll be another 100,000 perhaps in payables, so you end up with like a $400,000 surplus for the budget. And then in addition, you'll have the reimbursement for storm damage minus the carryover. another 300,000.
So 7.
So it'll come to like 700 added on to a present fund balance at the end of the previous fiscal year of about 2.8, giving you around 3.5.
That's good, that's good.
Won't be many years like that.
No.
But that's really good, obviously.
And the reimbursement for storm damage, where does that come from again?
Well, it's a FEMA pass through the state.
So
Okay.
Cornfield Point seawalls,
Yeah.
6 of them, we got about 495,000 in reimbursement from the feds on that. And that check came in just before the last Board of Finance meeting.
Oh, okay.
And then there was another 100,000
And there was
for
another
beach,
100 for beach.
beach repair and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it was pretty significant.
How much more reimbursement is left for that?
None.
None,
Just
this
we're
is
done?
it. This is it.
No more storms, no more reimbursements.
Right.
Let's hope.
And closed out the off-budget accounts for, with the expenses.
Okay, nice.
Could you tell me again, those three accounts, put the 150,000 approximately into?
Yeah, those were those, I think the last time I gave you the list of non-budget accounts, those were the 235 through 249 accounts. But the ones in particular I'm talking about are 241 road endings, 242 Saybrook Point property, 243 beach repair. Those were the primary ones.
And they were approximately 50 grand each?
Yeah, there's 53, 41, and 46.
Doug, did we get any reimbursement from the winter storms besides Sandy?
We did not. From the February storm we had this
Yeah,
year?
so the storm we didn't
We did
qualify
not,
for?
we ran that through Larry's operating budget.
Okay.
Yep, we ran that through the Public Works operating budget. Any overtime, any private contractors. We created an off-budget account in the hopes that we would get it. And when the governor, or when FEMA declared it was only going to be Tolland and New London County that got them, I alerted Larry right away and I said, that 40 grand is gonna get run through your operating budget, so you better watch it. And that's what happened. We just transferred it back into the operating budget. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah.
Any questions for Bob?
Okay, we got two other things. Number one, the auditors show up tomorrow to get started. And the other thing is that with a huge effort by Janet, we ended up with a perfect reconciliation between the bank and the accounting system today.
Nice.
Good.
That's great.
So we're in good shape.
Fantastic.
Bob, you know what days of the week the auditors will be here?
Well, they're gonna be here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They spent yesterday and today at Board of Ed. And what they're doing here is doing a statistical sample of transactions, just to get started with this. Then they'll come back in October and do the financial statements and audit the end product.
So just a few days here and now?
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions for Bob?
Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Selectman?
Okay, a couple things. So, in the 15-16 budget, the budget we are currently in right now, we put $10,000 aside for the building inspector towards the purchase of a vehicle. Don is driving a 2003 white Crown Vic. And I told him, look for a vehicle. I'm gonna just run something by you guys. It's not final. He sent me an email about a week ago. M&N Motors, right over by Computer Science, has a white 2007. So the vehicle is 8 years old. That's my, has 61,000 miles on it. Apparently it's from Florida, you know, so he thinks we could buy it for about 14,000 all in. Like I said, we have 10 in a sinking fund. I didn't respond to him. Don said the truck is very clean, pretty well equipped, and I'm interested in it to replace the 03 Crown Vic. So I just want to kind of throw that out to you. I'll pick up this conversation with Don tomorrow again. Honestly, I haven't had a chance to catch up with him, but I will. I don't know what, you know, hard to find a vehicle for 10 grand, obviously. You know, so this vehicle would be a little bit more than that. When we did this once before, it was a simple appropriation by the board to add whatever money needed added into it. I don't know what your inclination is, I just want to get a sense.
How many miles a year does he go?
I'd have to ask him that question. He doesn't use a lot of gas.
I bet he does 5 or 6 probably. He doesn't use a lot because
He's all around town.
he's had that car for how long?
Well,
And it came from the police department, it's only got 130 on it right now.
I just went over his gas numbers today. He uses about 400 or 500 gallons of gas a year.
It's 10,000.
So divide that by
Probably
18,
10,000.
20.
No, they say 15 miles a gallon.
Yeah. So what is that?
6,000 miles.
6,000. So there you go. So I happen to know his gas usage. So all right. So I'm kind of throwing that out there for consideration at some point. I want to put it on your plate. That car does need to go. It's an 03 Crown Vic. It's, yeah.
Yeah, that's a truck, he's looking at too.
It is.
It's 4-wheel drive?
Yes.
Okay. That's a pretty good buy.
So Barry, let me confirm it's 4-wheel drive.
Huh? Put all the stuff in the back.
So
Little higher ground.
it's a Ranger. It's a small truck. So let me. I just want to move on. I just want to throw that out to you. Okay. We received yesterday. I received we have a our property and casualty is through CIRMA, Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Association. It's a member-owned insurance company. There's 155 of the 169 towns that insure through them, and they return money to us sometimes when they have good years. And this year, yesterday, we deposited, or Bob probably deposited today, about actually a $21,000 and change check. I mentioned it to you, it's gonna go into our general fund, just going right to revenues for 15-16 fiscal year. I mentioned it to you because it's additional revenue. So, you know, if you were going to put some money toward Don Lucas's car, you know, you could say, well, that's certainly offset by the 21,000, that was unexpected revenue too. Just kind of a thought. But it's 21,000, it's out of my hands, I'm not asking for a special project, nothing, it just goes right into the general fund. I thought I'd make you aware of that. I don't know how many of you, or if any of you, attended the trolley power plant listening sessions at all? Did anybody go to those? No, okay. I went to the one in the afternoon, I couldn't go to the one at night, but one in the afternoon had about 20 people, and the one at night had about 25 people. Just for the marketing guy to take back some ideas. But just thought I'd ask if anybody went and tell you how it was received. The brownfields assessment over on Custom Marine property, we issued a customized purchase order today because the contract through DEEP requires a purchase order. So we issued a purchase order for the bid amount, which was 114. We have a grant for I think it's 165. So they should begin work on that this summer. So that's exciting. It will take about a year for them to do a phase 1, 2, and 3.
114 covers all 3 phases.
Yes, they were a low bidder by about 15 grand. So there's, anyway. Something I talked to a few of you about, trees. I talked to Tom about it. Who else did I talk to about it? Brad and Dave, yeah, both. There's just a remarkable amount of big dead trees in town. And if you drive down Nahantic, Uncas Road, Attawanhood, all in there, sugar maples, big trees that are almost hollowed out. There was I don't know if any of you heard about this, but there was a tree limb that fell and totaled a vehicle. It was a town tree. Obviously, a woman came in very upset. It's an insurance claim. I am going to have the tree warden, he could not come in tonight, but I may have him come in at your next meeting to just give you an update on what's out there. We have a really good tree warden. He's right on the button with a lot of stuff. I am going to ask this board to appropriate an amount of money so that we can go out to bid and try to take down about 20 of these trees. And these trees are going to be $1,500 to $3,000 trees. I'm not asking for 60. I'm going to ask you for about 25. I think I'm going to ask for about 25, 30,000 to just go at a bunch of trees down there because I have $14,000 in the tree budget.
How about 21,000?
What does that mean?
You just got 21,000.
Oh, right, whatever. I mean, yeah, but I'll probably ask you to take it from. Probably ask you to take it from capital non-recurring fund. I'm not asking you tonight, as I've tried to do before, I'm trying to put something on your radar. I'm gonna have him come in. I mean, I get an email, it has to be 2 or 3 times a week from people who are very upset about the condition of trees, and just drive down there. Drive down Nahantic when you get a chance. It's a beautiful road with these big, beautiful trees that have this canopy, but they are all at the end of their life. And I don't know what the road's gonna look like when some of these trees come down. It's gonna change the character of the road. They're not all gonna come down, but there are some trees in really bad shape. Okay, so I'm kinda giving you a heads up that we're gonna do that. And there'll be a lot of people to support that money at a town meeting, I can tell you that.
Carl, is your pre-committee active still?
No, it's not really
Nobody had
active,
it?
no. We have a pretty good tree warden right now, and I want him to come in and talk to you. I think he.
I meant about replanting. That's the
Okay, so
committee,
the tree warden can also talk about replanting too.
Good.
I think it's worth having him talk to you about that. He works at Save a Tree, so they do a lot of pruning and pretty educated guy.
What's
So
his name?
Jim Kiley, do you know?
I'm a good customer of his.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
So am
Oh, okay,
I have
there you go.
one still there.
Jim's our tree warden.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. We did for $5,000, we actually had a couple applications, and he wanted to make sure he had no conflict with his company to do it, and he didn't. And he's doing a great job. He's on it. So it's very helpful to me because, as you can imagine, I was dealing with a lot of that.
The only problem you might have if you go out to bid for a tree and his company bids on it. That's just-
They don't bid on takedowns.
Okay, fine.
And they wouldn't bid on it. And we did it last winter. We've done it the last 2 winters. We've been very successful with bidding.
Okay.
So, and they did not bid on any of them. So that's 1, 2. Lastly, I brought before your attention last time the plantings at the North Cove guardrail. The historic district put in a request to you to carry over $2,000. They were hoping to do these plantings in the spring, but they're now going to do it in the fall. You remember this is the same guardrail we talked about, a wooden guardrail as opposed to what's there now. Kathy Connolly in North Cove has worked very actively with a lot of people in North Cove to come up with a plan. It is a bunch of miniature shrubs. We've made sure it will not impact views of people who would be driving along. There are some people who don't agree with this. Mr. Gadudi and I have gone back and forth on this several times. in my office cordially. He doesn't agree with this, but Kathy Connolly is pretty expert at what she does, and she says this is not going to impact any views. The trees that she's proposing to plant are miniature versions of junipers, I think, and a few other plants. And to partially hide that guardrail, or at least pretty it up. The historic district took it on, they voted for it. Like I said, they had a little extra money in a very small budget this year that they were planning on doing it in 14-15, and they'd like to do it in the fall. And they put forth a proposal to you to carry over $2 grand from that budget.
I have a question here. What is our policy, what's the town policy concerning planting? We have volunteers doing Main Street. Did we contribute at all to them?
That's a garden club.
So that, I'm talking about the plants. Do we contribute at all to the
I
plants?
don't, not that, no, we don't.
Okay.
You got
And
the weed
on this
whackers as well.
$2,000, does this include labor and the plants?
It actually will include installation, partly from this year's budget and partly from the carryover. Future maintenance will be town crew, whatever maintenance needs to be done. The people in North Cove have volunteered to water these plants, but obviously we're waiting for a wetter season. But yeah, eventually there will be some town crew maintenance if a tree gets too big, or if it needs to be pulled, if it's dead, and we decide to pull it, yeah.
You know, that's 10% of the cost of the fence. And it just seems to me that we have volunteers who take care of Main Street and Maple, that inset there. We have volunteers who do Main Street. I don't know who does the transfer station. That's all volunteer. I have a problem spending money on the labor portion of the $2,000. It seems a little rich to me. I think we should have one policy. We shouldn't have, I don't think we've done any contribution to the road endings of any plantings there.
I've had, okay, so in terms
I
of,
mean, I think we should have one policy.
that's not necessarily true.
Well, I'm asking, I really don't know.
So, so where there is volunteer help right now, if they chose not to, if the garden club said, we don't have enough members, we're now a defunct group, the town would budget money to take care of Main Street. As we do budget money for maintenance of road endings in Cornfield Point, I've hired Freddie, who just did the library, to trim back bushes down there. The town does pay for common area maintenance in town in certain budgets. However, traditionally, there have been areas that have been volunteer. You have the Wednesday weed whackers who take care of actually they do the corner right on Sheffield and Maine. They do a wonderful job. They do a bunch of other places. And I try to give them as much notice and compliments as I can in a public forum whenever I'm able to. But if that didn't happen, I would probably be subcontracting it out and it'd be paying for it. And it's just traditionally what has been done by volunteers continues to be done by volunteers, saving the town, you know, I want 15 grand a year, you know.
And what is the lifespan on that fence? Allegedly, that's going to be replaced.
What fence?
The fence that you're putting the landscaping in.
It's not being replaced.
I'm asking what the lifespan is. Of
Probably
the
50
fence.
years. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a highway rated railing. I mean, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So I understand what you're saying, John, but we do pay for maintenance of common areas. We've been fortunate enough that historically some organizations have taken over volunteer. Believe me, I go down Main Street and I look at the gardens on not only in the center aisle, but on the side, you know, in front of First Niagara Bank and right here on Sheffield. I slow down sometimes, roll down the window and say thank you. I mean, I do. They don't know who I am. I just, yeah. But That's a pretty nice effort they put in, and it's just I've never known any different, I don't know if you have either. It's just something they've done. But actually, they probably started doing the median when we did the project.
The Light Up
right?
Old
Yeah, the
Saybrook.
Light Up Old Saybrook project,
Right,
right. So,
exactly.
yeah, so that's probably when that started, and the Garden Club adopted it.
Who does the transfer station?
Don't know.
Scott's,
Is it
Yeah.
Scott?
And that's a volunteer, right?
that's Scott's. Right there.
Yeah.
Volunteer.
That is, yeah. There are areas, there are pockets all over town that are
Well,
volunteer.
I just find it unusual. I think we should have one policy, but that's my opinion.
But sure, I can have one policy, volunteers. It's not gonna happen.
You can't have a
It's happened a
policy.
lot already. I mean, I would.
Yeah, you can't have a policy to volunteer, right?
Yeah, you know, so that's not gonna happen. It's either I kick out the volunteers and say, I can't have you do it, or I let them do it and thank them profusely for it. I don't know what else to say about that, John. I mean,
No, is there an issue with that, with the harbor management group on that piece of property?
it's a town road, and that is within the town right of way, otherwise there wouldn't be a guardrail there. So it is within the town right of way, and it does not affect the Harbor Management Commission. They have, nobody, as far as I know, other than Mr. Gadudi, and as I said, I have no issue with the difference of opinion, but, it doesn't affect anybody going to the clothesline marina. It won't affect them.
So are you looking for a motion to carry over those?
I am.
2009?
I guess we've had the discussion, but you can continue it if you'd like.
Do we have to
They're
come
gonna
back?
do the project, okay? So they're gonna do it. Either in this year's, partly with this year's budget, and they may need some help from from land use department. They're gonna do it. But they figured since they planned on doing it with these funds, and they got delayed, partly because of me, because I was researching it, making sure there was no conflict, and that there was no encroachment into the jurisdiction of another, between the HDC, Historic District Commission, and the Harbor Management Commission. You know, we actually researched that, and so.
Carl, why do you say they're going to do it regardless of what the outcome of this vote?
Because they have money in their budget to do things like the
So they
Historic
don't
District
need-
Commission.
Oh, so they don't need this 2,000?
They do, because it's gonna cost a little bit more than $2,000. And they planned on doing it since they had the money, and they wanna use this money. They're probably gonna need a little bit more between labor and materials. It's going to be more than 2,000.
So the rest of the money will still be in their account?
Be in this year's budget.
Will still be in the budget?
Yes.
I find it.
So it could be a
They're gonna do
surplus
it.
at the end of the year.
Need our approval, that to me is like,
That's why I asked.
So John, Barry, so they can do it with a carryover from last year's funds in addition to this year's funds, or they can do it with this year's funds, and then they may ask me out of my selectmen's unclassified budget, or contingent, which I'm not gonna use a contingency, obviously, you know, to help them, or, you know, that they may ask me to put money in.
what you say is it's $2,000, you have the discretionary, you can do it anyway. You're gonna give it to them anyway, one way or the other.
It's not in my budget, it's in the Historic District Commission budget.
And they didn't spend it, so now they want to spend it.
But they planned on spending it.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
Just timing.
It was timing, and obviously we didn't want to plant, we had the driest spring known to man, I think.
So I would make a motion to add to the agenda, Historic District
Wait.
plantings.
Historic Commission money to carry over $2,000 for guardrail plantings.
Is there a second to add that to the agenda?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? No.
Two opposed?
2 to 4, what did
Aye.
you say? Okay. 2 to 4. 4 to 2. Motion passes, how about that? All right, so now I'll entertain a motion to move the money to carry over the $2,000 from their 14-15 budget into the 15-16 budget. Is there a motion to approve that?
Second.
Is there a motion to approve that?
Motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right, is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I'll be consistent.
Okay.
And that was a request from Christine Nelson, in Land Use and the Historic District Commission, so, and Diane Aldy is the chairman of that commission.
All right. Probably jumped the gun on that. Are there any questions for Carl?
Just one.
Yeah.
The boat's been up here. Have you heard any more about what they plan to do? They're gonna give us.
I'm sorry.
On the boat. Are they gonna tell us any more information about the boat? What's the use?
No vote.
Please vote.
There is no police boat.
Okay, but eventually it's done. Never again.
Until it comes up again.
Well, I'm just curious if somebody's gonna get a group together to find out what the mission was. We asked a lot of questions.
Yep.
Got no answer.
Gary,
And I just,
since 2 weeks ago, I haven't thought about
It's so rough.
really?
it. I have not reconsidered anything. I haven't heard anything on the street. I haven't, nothing.
Any other questions for Carl? Nothing?
I'm trying to.
Don't beg
think
them,
of the stuff we
Jesus,
talked
stay
about.
black, believe.
I know.
I make a motion to.
Adjourn?
Oh, no, there's public comments.
There's public
Oh,
comment.
I'm sorry.
Is there any public comment?
I just have a few questions. Is it too late to add the vote on Larry's loader to the special town meeting that's being held next week, or can you not
Yeah,
change?
you cannot do that, yeah. No, I can't do it.
You can't change the agenda?
Can't
Okay.
change, no, I cannot
And then
change the town meeting.
on
agenda.
the truck that we're considering for Don Lucas, do you know you said it's a Ford Ranger and it's always been in Florida?
I'm gonna check to see if it's
Okay.
four-wheel drive. Is that your question?
No, my
Oh.
question is rotted fuel lines, rotted
Yeah.
brake lines, stuff like that.
We would probably have it looked at.
And my other thing is, I think I understand Mr. O'Brien's point is, are we gonna set the precedent that my neighborhood, I want flowers planted there? Was that the concern?
Well, that was part of it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand that
That's why I wanted the
completely.
policy.
So the Historic District Commission is its own commission.
Okay.
And, that's the only one in town. And, they moved this item, and that's what they're trying to do.
So, but it was their money to spend anyway, and they could have already just spent it?
They are budgeted a certain amount of money per year. It's
Okay.
like 5,000.
And as far as Main Street goes, I've lived here my entire life, 45 years, and the Garden Club has always taken care of it before the gas light project and everything
Okay.
else.
All right.
Just so everybody
Yep.
is aware of that.
Thank you.
They do a great job.
Yeah, they do.
Any additional public comment?
Oh, actually, one more. Sphere hasn't beaten a path to your office in the past 2 weeks. Just
What
a
other
question.
possibilities? You're still left with the problem that you need a boat.
That's correct.
Why doesn't the selectman's office put together a committee of citizens to, one, find out what the mission is for this boat that you need? Number two, find out what kind of boat will fulfill that mission. Instead of living in this suspense of what's going to come out of the Taj Mahal next. You need to patrol the river. I don't think there's anyone in town, well, there would be some, but you
There are
need some
some.
patrol on the river. Okay? It's a town asset that's going to patrol it. It's town money that's going to provide that asset. Obviously, there should be citizens' input into what that asset is going to be and how much money is going to be spent on it.
Also needs.
This is a town of 10,000 people. There's a logical end to the amount of money that 10,000 people, or take the summer population, whatever. One of the questions to be answered is, how much money should a town of 10,000 people be putting into this asset? And it's a decision that so far has been made by the people and should continue to be made by the people. And instead of living in this suspense, put together a committee, just like you did on the Taj Mahal, find out what you're going to do. Because you're now into August, and this year may be gone, but you've got to address next year. And these boats just don't suddenly appear.
Okay. Any additional public comment? All right. I have no comments.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Yeah, I do.
Thanks,
Okay. Thank you.
See you.
Thanks for coming.